Captain Marin Quill had always been a woman of practicality. A skilled officer in the human navy, she had earned her place on the deep space exploration vessel Verdant through years of dedication and quiet competence. Her mission was routine, a typical assignment for a ship of Verdant's class, to chart unknown sectors, gather data on potential resources, and ensure humanity's continued expansion into the vast unknown. For centuries, humanity had been navigating the stars, slowly making its mark on the galaxy. However, despite their impressive technological advancements, humanity was still seen as an unremarkable species, more of an inconvenience than a threat to the more ancient and powerful civilizations already established in the galaxy. The Verdant was currently on a mission far from any known conflict or galactic politics, exploring a sector untouched by the wars and tensions that dominated the heart of space. It was a blank slate, one of the last uncharted regions of the galaxy where they could make discoveries without interference. To Captain Quill, this was just another quiet job in a long line of uneventful assignments. However, she couldn't have known that their journey through this remote space would set off a chain of events that would change the fate of humanity forever. The quiet mission took a sudden turn when the Verdant encountered a strange cosmic anomaly, an ancient stellar phenomenon unlike anything on the ship's charts. It was a swirling vortex, similar to a black hole, yet it didn't behave as one would expect. As the ship passed through, it became clear that the phenomenon was no ordinary cosmic event. There was something hidden within, something far more powerful than the crew had realized. It wasn't just a distortion in space, it was a doorway, a gateway to something older, and far more dangerous than anything the crew could have imagined. As they entered the anomaly, the Verdant passed into a space that seemed completely still, untouched by the usual forces of time and space. Their instruments malfunctioned, and the crew could sense an unsettling calmness. It felt as though they had entered a new dimension of sorts, one where the laws of physics no longer applied. Then, out of nowhere, they encountered the Sinastra. At first, they were a distant shadow on the radar, and then suddenly, there they were, right in front of the Verdant, their ships vast and ancient. The Sinastra were a race of hyper-intelligent beings who had once ruled the galaxy eons ago. Their empire had stretched across countless star systems, and their technological supremacy was unmatched. But then, just as quickly as they had risen, the Sinastra had disappeared. They had gone into hibernation, waiting for a time when the galaxy would once again be ready for their return. Now, the Sinastra had awoken from their long slumber, and they saw humanity as a threat. In their eyes, humanity was nothing more than a nuisance, a species too primitive to stand in their way. They had no hesitation in deciding that humanity would be wiped out. The Sinastra's strategy was clear. They would reclaim their galaxy and extinguish any species standing in their path. Their ships moved into position, and the Verdant was outclassed in every way. Captain Quill knew their survival was a matter of moments. But then, an unexpected twist occurred. While trying to understand the strange readings on her console, Captain Quill accidentally activated a dormant Sinastra communication device hidden deep within the Verdant. This device was an ancient relic, something the Sinastra had placed on the ship to relay a single powerful command to their fleet. The word that was transmitted had the ability to influence the Sinastra fleet and, by extension, the entire empire. It was a single word that held the potential to change everything, but Quill had no idea what it would mean. The word? Humanity.as. The word echoed through the communication system. Something remarkable happened. The Sinastra fleet, poised to attack, froze in place. Their massive ships, which had been charging up their weapons to annihilate the Verdant, now remained completely still. It wasn't that the Sinastra feared the word itself. It was far more complicated than that. They were confused, bewildered. They had spent millennia developing technology that surpassed anything humanity could comprehend. Yet here was a single word from a species they had deemed inferior, and it had stopped them in their tracks. The concept of humanity was a paradox to the Sinastra. They had ruled through logic, order, and control, but humanity was nothing like that. Humans were unpredictable, chaotic, emotional, and far from perfect. They couldn't understand how something so simple, so raw, could hold such power over them. The Sinastra, for the first time in their history, were paralyzed not by fear, but by the very essence of what it meant to be human. Humanity, in all its flawed and unpredictable glory, was something they could never replicate. It was a weakness they could never fully understand. Captain Quill, now aware of the profound implications of her accidental transmission, faced a monumental challenge. The Verdant was no longer just a research vessel on a routine mission. It had become the focal point of a galactic power struggle. Humanity's survival now depended on the mysterious power of a single word, humanity. But what did it mean? Why had it stopped the Sinastra in their tracks? What was the true nature of this word, and how could Marin use it to ensure the survival of her species? As Captain Quill stood at the helm, her mind raced. She knew that her next move would determine not only her crew's fate, but the future of all humanity. With the Sinistra fleet frozen in space, the entire galaxy was now watching. The only question was, what would humanity do with this unexpected power? Would they learn to wield it wisely, or would they risk losing themselves in the process? The mission was no longer just about exploration. It had become a race against time to understand the power behind humanity before the Sinistra, and perhaps others found a way to break free of its influence. Captain Marin Quill sat at the helm of the Verdant, her mind spinning with the weight of their discovery. The Sinistra fleet remained frozen in space, paralyzed by the word humanity, a word so simple and so incomprehensible to the galaxy's oldest and most powerful empire. But Marin's victory was bittersweet. The power behind that word, behind humanity itself, was something no one fully understood. It was clear that this was not just a fluke, but a key to something much larger. But what was that key? And more importantly, who should hold it? Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden communication, a transmission that no one aboard the Verdant had expected. The voice that came through was smooth, calculated, and oddly familiar. It was the voice of someone who had known the secrets of the galaxy for a long time, someone who'd been manipulating the strings from behind the scenes. The voice identified itself as a member of the Council of Elders, a secret faction of humans who had operated in the shadows of galactic politics for centuries. Marin's stomach tightened. She had heard of the Elders' whispers of a covert organization that had knowledge of the galaxy's hidden forces. But she never imagined they would make contact with her. The transmission continued, chilling her further. "Captain Quill," the voice began, "you have unleashed something far greater than you realize. The Sinastra, though powerful, were never the true threat. Humanity itself, your species, has always been the galaxy's greatest weapon. You are part of a plan much older than your understanding of the universe." Marin's heart raced. "What are you talking about? What plan?" The voice explained that humanity, in its earliest days, had been more than just a species. It had been a project, an experiment seeded by an ancient and forgotten civilization. This civilization, long extinct, had left humanity with a unique, unquantifiable power, a psychological connection to the very fabric of the cosmos itself. It wasn't about technology. It wasn't about intellect. It was something deeper. It was the power of will, of sheer determination and unpredictability. This force was embedded in every human, and it was what had caused the Sinastra's paralysis. Marin was stunned. The very core of what made humanity unique, their ability to defy logic, to act against reason, to survive against impossible odds, was the secret weapon of the galaxy. This hidden power, this chaos, was the force that the Sinastra had never accounted for. They could not predict it, nor could they control it. And now, it seemed that humanity's future had become entangled with forces far greater than anything Marin had ever imagined. Her mission had just taken a darker turn. No longer was it just about survival. Now, it was about understanding the full scope of humanity's potential and deciding whether they should wield it or whether it would destroy them. The Elders, the transmission revealed, were a group of humans who had known about this potential for centuries. They had been quietly guiding humanity from the shadows, manipulating political systems, and controlling the flow of knowledge. They believed that humanity's true destiny was to rule the galaxy, to reshape the galaxy's order with the force of their will. But Marin felt a deep skepticism rise in her. Could humanity truly handle such power? What makes you think humanity is ready for this? Marin demanded. We can barely keep our own house in order. How can we rule a galaxy? The voice on the other end was calm. That is the very reason you must. Humanity's unpredictability, its spirit, it is a force that even the most advanced civilizations cannot comprehend. You think you are unprepared, but that is the strength that lies within you. The Sinastra, for all their intellect, never understood the value of chaos. And that is why they will fall. Marin felt a shiver run down her spine. She had always been a pragmatist, grounded in reason. The idea of embracing such an unpredictable force, such a raw, untamed potential, terrified her. She couldn't ignore the possibility that the very thing that had paralyzed the Sinastra could easily become a force of destruction, not only for her species, but for the galaxy itself. Tensions were already rising aboard the Verdant. Her crew, once united in their mission to explore and survive, was now divided. The news of humanity's potential sparked heated debates. Lieutenant Aileron, her trusted second-in-command, was firmly against embracing this newfound power. Humanity is not prepared to rule the galaxy, he argued. We're not ready for the responsibility, and we're certainly not ready to control this kind of power. It's a dangerous path, Captain. Others, however, felt differently. Some of her crew saw this as an opportunity to seize control of their own destiny. They believed that humanity should embrace this power, that they should take the opportunity to dominate, to rise above the other races that had always looked down on them. They saw the Sinastra's paralysis as a sign that humanity was meant to lead. As the crew debated, another mystery unfolded. Marin began receiving cryptic messages from an unknown source messages that seemed to know more about the Sinastra than anyone else. The voice, though fragmented and distorted, claimed to be from an ancient race who'd once created the Sinastra. According to this voice, the true danger of humanity's potential had not yet been revealed. The word humanity was not just a trigger that froze the Sinastra, it was a doorway. And opening it could unleash an even greater threat. Marin felt the weight of the decision she now faced. Humanity's survival, the fate of the galaxy, and her own personal beliefs were now inextricably linked. The power of the word humanity was both a gift and a curse. Could they control it? Or would it ultimately lead them to ruin? As the Verdant drifted deeper into Sinastra space, Marin realized that there was no turning back. The future of humanity rested not just on the choices she made, but on the unknown forces that had set them on this path. Was this their moment to rise above their limitations, or was this the beginning of their undoing? With the Sinastra still frozen and the galaxy on the brink of chaos, Marin knew that the next move could change everything. And she had no idea whether she was ready to make it. Captain Marin Quill stared at the holoscreen before her mind reeling from the revelation that had come crashing into her life. For weeks, she had wondered what made the word humanity so powerful, so incomprehensible to the Sinastra. Now, after speaking with the mysterious voice, the voice that had led her down this tumultuous path, she had learned the truth. The Sinastra were not a natural creation. They were a product of the Etherians, an ancient race that once ruled the galaxy. The Etherians, in their pursuit of perfection, had sought to create the ultimate species by combining the finest qualities from multiple civilizations. The Sinastra had been their answer, a race designed for logic, control, and intellectual supremacy. Their minds were sharp, their calculations precise, and their society was governed by unyielding order. But they had failed. The Etherians, in their pursuit of control, had neglected the one element that the Sinastra could never understand, the unpredictability and emotional depth that made humanity unique. The Sinastra had built an empire based on logic, and it had been their undoing. The word humanity, Marin now realized, was not some random trigger to freeze the Sinastra in their tracks. It was a measure, a test. It was the Etherians' final judgment of a species one that was not based on intellect, but on the heart. The revelation hit Marin like a physical blow. Humanity, despite its faults, its flaws, and its many imperfections, possessed something that no other species could replicate: the chaotic, unpredictable force of the human heart. The word humanity was not a weapon. It was the balance between heart and mind, between impulse and reason, that made humanity unlike anything the galaxy had ever known. The Etherians had created the Sinistra as a species of pure intellect, yet in doing so, they had overlooked the one thing that made life and the universe truly unpredictable: the human spirit. Marin's perspective shifted. She had spent so long thinking of humanity as the underdog, always struggling against the odds. But now, she saw that humanity was something much greater, something the galaxy had never anticipated. The Sinastra had failed to realize that emotion, chaos, and unpredictability were as vital to the survival of a species as logic and control. The Etherians had created a perfect race in terms of intellect, but in doing so, they had made them brittle, incapable of adapting to the wild forces of the universe. In contrast, humanity, in its raw unpredictability, could survive the chaos of existence because it was not bound by rigid laws. However, that realization came with its own heavy burden. To wield the word humanity to unlock its true power was a gamble. Humanity's unpredictable nature could be a blessing or a curse. It could uplift civilizations, bringing freedom and progress to the galaxy, but it could just as easily destroy everything in its path if it was misunderstood or misused. Marin had to make a decision, and that decision would shape the future of the galaxy. Her mind raced as she replayed the messages from the Council of Elders. They had been clear about their intentions. Humanity should embrace its destiny and seize the opportunity to rule the galaxy, to use its newfound power to topple the Sinastra and any other empire that stood in their way. But as much as the idea of dominating the galaxy tempted some of her crew, Marin had begun to see the truth. This wasn't about ruling. It was about survival, and humanity could not afford to forget that. She thought of Lieutenant Aileron, her trusted second-in-command, who had been steadfast in his belief that humanity should not risk controlling this power. The Sinistra weren't defeated because of their logic, Aileron had said. They were destroyed because they couldn't understand the chaos that made life beautiful, the unpredictability that makes humanity so dangerous and so unique. But what if Aileron was right? What if humanity's greatest strength, this raw force of will, was something that could tear the galaxy apart? Marin stared out of the observation window at the frozen Sinistra fleet. The ships hung in space, suspended in time, a silent testament to the uncertainty and confusion that had gripped the galaxy. Their empires, built on intellect and control, now stood helpless in the face of something they couldn't understand. Humanity had been given a choice: to embrace this power and risk becoming something it was never meant to be, or to reject it and lose the chance to rise above the stars. Marin's hand trembled as she reached for the control panel. She knew what she had to do. It wasn't about wielding power. It was about finding balance. Humanity's strength lay not in its ability to conquer, but in its capacity to adapt, to learn, and to survive. She had seen what happened when a species relied too heavily on intellect and control. The Sinastra had been created with the best intentions, but they had failed because they couldn't comprehend the unpredictable nature of life. The weight of the decision settled over Marin like a dark cloud. She had to ensure that humanity didn't lose itself in the pursuit of power. They couldn't become like the Sinastra, cold, calculating, and devoid of heart. Humanity's heart was its greatest strength, but it was also its greatest risk. If they embraced the full extent of their power, they might lose everything that made them human. But if they rejected it, they might never reach their true potential. As Marin stood there, lost in thought, she received another transmission, a voice crackling through the comms, low and urgent. "Captain, you need to listen to us," the voice said. "You must understand humanity is not just the key to survival. It's the key to the galaxy's future. But it's a future we can't predict. We have been warning you for generations. The Etherians created the Sinastra to control, but it was humanity's chaos that made the universe thrive. Don't let them steal that from you." Marin closed her eyes. The voice, the warnings, the messages, it all pointed to the same conclusion. The word humanity wasn't just a symbol of their strength. The Etherians had created the Sinistra to be perfect in intellect, but imperfect in heart. Now, it was humanity's turn to choose. Would they rule with wisdom or chaos? Could they balance both? Captain Marin Quill stood before the control panel on the bridge of the Verdant, her fingers hovering over the comm system. The weight of her decision was heavy on her chest. Humanity had been thrust into the galactic spotlight, forced to confront its own potential for both greatness and destruction. The fate of the galaxy now rested on a single, simple act, a message. For hours, she had wrestled with the decision. The voices of the Council of Elders echoed in her mind, urging her to embrace humanity's potential and seize control of the galaxy. Lieutenant Aileron, her trusted second-in-command, had argued against it, reminding her that the unpredictable nature of humanity could either save or doom them. Marin had seen both sides, the allure of dominance and the risk of losing humanity's very essence in the process. And yet, it was in the very unpredictability of humanity that she saw the truth. The Sinastra, for all their intellect and power, had failed because they could not understand the unpredictable nature of life, of the human heart. The Etherians had tried to create a perfect race, but in doing so, they had overlooked the one thing that made humanity truly unique: its capacity for growth, for change, for choosing the path it would take. Marin had no desire to rule the galaxy. She did not want to create an empire that would eventually crumble under the weight of its own control. What humanity needed, what the galaxy needed, was something different, something that embraced both reason and emotion, intellect and heart. Humanity had always been a species of contradictions, and it was this very contradiction that made them powerful. With a deep breath, Marin activated the communication system. She would send the word that had paralyzed the Sinastra, but she would send it with a new message, one that spoke to the heart of humanity. The words she spoke were simple, but they carried the weight of everything humanity had fought for, everything it could become. "We are not perfect," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion, "but we choose to grow. We choose to embrace both our hearts and our minds." The silence in the room was deafening. Marin's crew waited with bated breath as the message was transmitted to the Sinastra fleet. She watched the holoscreen, waiting for a response. The tension was palpable, as if the very fabric of the galaxy was holding its breath. And then, slowly, the Sinastra fleet began to move. Not in attack, not in retaliation, but in surrender. The ships, which had once been poised to destroy everything in their path, now drifted in a calm, calculated manner. They had heard the message, and they had understood. The Sinastra did not surrender because they feared humanity. They had no reason to fear them. No, it was something else, something that transcended logic, something they could not comprehend but that they could feel. For the first time, the Sinastra understood what had paralyzed them. It was not the power of technology, nor the might of humanity's military, but the raw, unpredictable force of the human spirit, the ability to choose, to grow, to adapt. The word humanity had never been just a trigger. It was a paradox, a challenge, a statement of existence. Humanity's greatest strength lay not in its superiority, but in its capacity for change, for evolution. The Sinastra had spent eons creating a species of perfection, only to find that perfection was a trap. Humanity, in its flaws and unpredictability, held the key to a future they could not fathom. As the Sinastra fleet began to retreat, their once imposing ships now leaving a vast void of silence in their wake, Marin felt a deep sense of relief. They had won, but the victory was not one of conquest. It was a victory of understanding, of empathy, a victory that transcended the traditional boundaries of war and politics. Humanity had not defeated the Sinastra with weapons or superiority, but with something far more powerful, the willingness to embrace both heart and mind. But the victory was not without its cost. Marin knew that the galaxy's future was still uncertain. The Verdant was hailed as a symbol of humanity's unexpected rise, and for the first time, the galaxy began to take notice of humanity's place among the stars. However, as she looked out the viewport at the vast expanse of space, Marin couldn't shake the feeling that the true battle was only just beginning. The galaxy was still grappling with the idea of humanity's existence. Would humans be the torchbearers of peace, leading the galaxy into a new era of cooperation and understanding? Or would they fall into the same traps as the Sinastra, becoming another empire bound by logic and control, unable to understand the chaos that made life meaningful? Marin knew that the answer lay not in the hands of a few powerful individuals or factions, but in the hearts of every human who called the stars their home. Humanity had the power to shape its own future, But that power was not a guarantee of success. It was a responsibility to continue growing, to continue evolving, and to never forget that true strength lay in the ability to change, to adapt, and to choose. As the Verdant drifted toward a new sector of unexplored space, Marin's mind turned inward. The journey ahead was uncertain, and the stakes were higher than ever. But humanity had already taken its first step towards something greater, a future where unpredictability wasn't a curse, but a gift. A future where hearts and minds could coexist, creating a galaxy that wasn't bound by logic or domination, but by the willingness to grow and learn from the past.